Next on Newsmax Prime, Dr. Ben Carson now on the campaign trail, but before announcing for president, he talked with us. That exclusive interview coming up. Plus, Mike Huckabee makes it official, and Dick Morris says Huck may be in luck. Also tonight, as Hillary Clinton tries to outbid Jeb Bush on amnesty, confirmation of a Mexican helicopter flying into our airspace and firing on our border patrol last summer. Ironically, it's Cinco de Mayo, Tuesday, May 5th, and Newsmax Prime starts right now. Welcome into Newsmax Prime. I'm J.D. Hayworth. Thank you so much for spending part of your time with us. And of prime interest to you tonight, Dr. Ben Carson on the campaign trail in Iowa today, just one day after announcing that he is in fact running for president. I sat down for an exclusive interview with him and started out by asking him about comments from Rudy Giuliani, who said decades of leftist leadership led to the downfall of Detroit and problems in other places like Baltimore.
There's no question that cities like Baltimore, Detroit, that have had long uninterrupted oversight by progressive policies have not necessarily led to an elevation of the people there. There's no question about that. And, you know, the whole concept of the government taking care of your problems from cradle to grave and being involved with all the important aspects of your life, and that you're not able to make these decisions for yourself, this is really not what the founders of this nation had in mind. And it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be compassionate, but we need to be looking for ways that we can allow people who are dependent in our society to climb up and to become part of the fabric of the American dream.
Those who follow us, you've talked about. You say you're running because of your grandchildren, trying to preserve a future for them, build a future for them, despite the specter of staggering debt. Just how much trouble are we in financially and morally in this country?
We're in enormous trouble. As I go around the country talking to people, the level of concern is through the roof. And, you know, my whole life professionally is concerned with the welfare of children and the well-being of children. And when I retired, I had no intention of going into the public arena. But I couldn't really relax seeing what was happening to the future of the next generations. And to sit by and just enjoy the rest of my life, I can't do it. In terms of the amount of trouble we're in, our debt is accumulating at a very, very rapid rate. And somebody's going to have to pay it. Unless we start thinking about it now and start acting responsibly, balancing our budget, you know, trimming the unnecessary aspects of our government and the things that are not working and that are inefficient, letting loose the most powerful economic engine the world has ever known by altering our tax system, the amount of regulatory control, so that people once again are encouraged and rewarded for entrepreneurial risk-taking and capital investment. Those are the things that drove this nation from nowhere to the pinnacle of the world in record time.
A lot of veteran political observers say, look, it's tough for people to make a transition into politics to begin with, but to open with the rigors of a national campaign is just too tall an order for a, quote, political novice. Is this in any way pressure compared to what you've been through previously in life?
Not even close. Not even close. But you know, what has happened is a lot of people have been convinced that in order to have wisdom, in order to know how to do things, you have to be a dyed-in-the-wool political junkie. You have to have spent time in that arena. And I say you can gain wisdom and experience in lots of other places. And in fact, I think there are millions of Americans out there who could do a much better job than people who traditionally spend all their time in the political arena and have no real contact with the real world. You know, there are a number of things that I've been able to do that have allowed me to acquire a great deal of knowledge and experience. And I totally reject out of hand that you have to be a political person in order to be wise and to know how to do things.
With your personal perspective, and you make no apologies for being a man of faith, for believing in a strong moral code, there are those who say, hey, listen, we just need to get our fiscal house in order, concentrate on economics, and speak softly about social issues. What do you say to those people?
I say your belief system, whatever it is, whether you believe in God, whether you're an atheist, whether you think our rights come from our Creator, or whether you think our rights come from government, whatever you believe affects who you are. There's no question about it. You can't separate that out. And I personally would much rather have somebody who thinks about their fellow man in a compassionate way and has values and principles that guide their lives than somebody who just says, whatever, however I feel, you know, that's the right way to do things.
The Supreme Court just heard a case on same-sex marriage. As President of the United States, what are you prepared to do to preserve traditional marriage?
Well, first of all, we have to understand how the Constitution works. The President is required to, you know, carry out the laws of the land. The laws of the land come from the legislative branch. So if the legislative branch creates a law or changes the law, the executive branch has the responsibility to carry it out. Doesn't say that they have the responsibility to carry out a judicial law. And that's something that we need to talk about.
Should there be a limit on the length of service of those serving in the federal judiciary, especially justices on the United States Supreme Court?
I believe there should be, because when these things were put into effect, the average age of death was 47. It was a very different time. We have not adjusted with the times. So again, that's a discussion that needs to be had.
You spoke of tax reform. Have you picked a plan? Are you for a fair tax, a flat tax? What would be President Carson's idea on tax reform?
I like a proportional tax, because proportionality is based on biblical principles of tithing. You make $10 billion a year, you pay $1 billion. You make $10 a year, you pay $1. But you get exactly the same rights. How could anything be more fair than that? But you also, in order to make it fair, have to eliminate deductions and loopholes so that everybody is treated the same. If you do that, you're talking about somewhere between 10 and 15%, which is much more conducive to investment, entrepreneurial risk, the things that drive job growth. And I want something that is so simple that you don't need the IRS.
Personally, thus far, what has been the biggest surprise to you on this road to a presidential campaign?
Probably the thing that surprised me the most is not so much the left-wing media attempting to stop me, but the torpedoes that come from the right. That probably has surprised me. But, you know, the nice thing is all I have to do is tell the truth and stick to the right principles. I'm not a politician, have no desire to be a politician. You don't have to be a politician to know how to do what's right. You need to be a politician to do what's politically expedient. And we've had that for far too long. And it's time for us to return to the values and principles that made this into a great nation.
We thank Dr. Carson for his time, and to watch my exclusive interview with Dr. Carson in its entirety, go to Newsmax.com. Well, you heard from Dr. Carson. We'd like to hear from you. What did you think about what he had to say? Send your comments to me via email. You can also send them to Facebook and Twitter. We're coming right back.